question.
So tell me where you grew up and what do you look back on with fondness?
Okay. Okay. So I grew up in Israel. I moved here to the States 10 years ago, so most of my life I spent in Israel. Um, Israel is beautiful. It's a beautiful country, and it's a very special culture, I believe. The thing I miss the most is the people, for sure. I mean, there's great people here, and I have lots of friends here, but there's a certain vibe. There's this somewhat hot-headedness, but also very warm culture there. People in Israel are very direct. They'll tell you what you think. So for the most part, you know where you stand, and I appreciate that. And yeah, if somebody's your friend, is your friend for life. So I really do miss my friends back there. I miss my family back there. It's what I look back, in fondness. It's what I look back in fondness the most. Is the people and the vibe and the food. The food is amazing. Yeah, the food in Israel is a mix between different cultures and different places around the world. So you really can find anything you can think of. Lots of fusion food, lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. So yeah, really miss the food.
Yeah. And your family, do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have a brother and a sister. Each of them has 2 kids. They're both older, slightly older than me, so I'm the baby.
And what was growing up in Israel with your family? Is that pretty common? That like big families, small families?
I would say it's an average size family back home. Enough to fit a car. You'll definitely see families that are bigger, even way bigger. But I would say 3 brothers and sisters is quite common.
And how did you and your brother and sister get along?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very different. My brother he's a scientist. He's got a scientist mind. So he's very studious, he's very analytical. My sister is more artistic. She's a writer. And I was always the more sporty one, the one who wants to go outside and climb things and do things. So we all kind of have our space, which is nice, but we also get along really well. And then, of course, when you leave half the globe away, then it's really easy to get along because we only see each other every now and again, and then it makes it really special.
If I could go back and talk to Sharon as a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, and I asked 8-year-old Sharon, what are you going to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? What would she tell me?
She won't tell you she's going to be a skydiver, that's for sure. I don't know. I don't know if I had something I wanted to be distinctly.
What things were you interested in? What did you enjoy doing?
As a kid, I would run. I had a lot of energy as a kid. I would say that I was a great teenager. I was a horrible child. I had a lot of energy that I needed to externalize. I would run around a lot, climb a lot, and anything I would see, make a lot of noise. But it's hard to, that's such an early age. It's hard for me to go back and be distinct about what I wanted to do. I was quite a philosopher in quite an early age. I was a very deep thinker, and I was engaged in problems of the world, of why are we here, and what is it all for. But yeah, at the same time, I would just go out there and get as much energy as I can out. So those are my main memories.
I'm really interested in what you just said about why are we troubled was the first word that came out.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Explain, and how did you deal with it?
To this day, I'm very interested in how our mind works and what it is that moves us, what it is that gets us going, motivates us. How do we learn? Why people do what they do. So even to this day, it's something that I find intriguing. The inner workings of the mind and body. And I think that I had a affinity to it in an early age. I definitely remember myself asking questions that some grown-ups will be looking at me kind of with an odd face, like, why is something wrong? Why are you asking these kind of questions? So I remember that's one childhood memory I remember. That's one childhood memory I have quite distinctly. But yeah, I'm just fascinated by how this whole operates, and bringing it back to skydiving. Skydiving has definitely taught me a lot about it and helped me investigate the mind body quite a bit, because it's such a mental game. So much of skydiving, I mean, obviously there's the physical aspects of it too, but so much of it is a mental game. So it's been an interesting way to explore the mind.
Did you have anybody, those questions that you would ask, and some adults would look at you funny, but did you have anybody that didn't look at you funny, that engaged with you and talked with you and like helped you think through that stuff?
I mean, I have a very good friend back home. I know her since we were 3. She's kind of like a little sister. She has a very different lifestyle than me, very family oriented, very stationary, lots of kids. So her and I would talk about things a lot. Would go very deep and meaningful in a very young age. She's religious too, so kind of questions about God and what does it all mean. And I've met people along the way, of course, that are interested in it. You're naturally drawn to people, to conversations that interest you, right? But there was not one specific figure that I can say influenced me in that way. I mean, my mindset has changed a lot through the years. I think the biggest thing that has changed is I was very stubborn. And I'm still very stubborn, just maybe not as much. I think skydiving and traveling has helped me be more open to other points of view, other ways of thinking. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey in that sense.
How would skydiving do that?
Well, I think that first of all, whenever so many levels. The easiest way is the traveling, right? Last 10 years I've spent traveling around the world, seeing different people, different cultures, and it's not just about what a person thinks, it's about how he thinks, how he or she frame things, how they view the world. And different cultures with different languages too perceive the world differently. So I think being exposed to that and having close friends that are from completely different cultures has definitely allowed me to see things from different angles. And instead of being stubborn with the way I'm thinking and seeing the world, and I'm not just talking about the what, I'm talking about the how. I think it allowed me to open up to different ways of thinking. Other than that, I mean, like I said, skydiving is a mental sport, and especially competing in skydiving and needing to perform and needing to have an optimal, and needing to get to an optimal performance, needing to dealing with peak performance. That's a whole subject that's been studied for years and has become very popular, very relevant lately, I think, in all topics, peak performance. So learning to work with your mind as a tool, learning to calm yourself down when we need to get yourself more aroused and up when you need to. Breathing, right? Breathing is such an important thing in life, but in skydiving you really see it. Being able to have all this high energy, intense environment, but actually connect to the more peaceful, quiet, flowy, relaxed aspect of skydiving, that's been super special for me. That's really changed my mind quite literally in many ways, because I was super high energy and hyper and almost couldn't think because everything was going so fast in my mind. And skydiving has taught me to slow things down and breathe with my motion, with my movement and just relaxing to things a little bit. So that's been a really interesting exploration as well.
Are you saying that has it affected you like that in other aspects of life?
Absolutely, yeah. I feel that I've always said that skydiving has been the biggest gift and the worst punishment I've ever gotten. It's completely consumed me. So for the last 20 years, it's all I've done was around skydiving. Lately, with some medical issues I had to pull back a little bit from skydiving and was able to do other things. As much as it was hard to pull back from skydiving, it was kind of nice to be able to go climb again and go to the beach and read more and do more yoga. But at the same time, skydiving has been such a precious gift because so much stuff that I've learned about the mind-body connection within the sport, I've been able or I'm working towards applying in my everyday life. So I find that very interesting. That's always been, in the recent years when I was working with students, that's what I would find the most interesting, is what can we learn from this that can actually benefit our everyday life other than just falling through the sky, which is pretty fun and cool anyway. But
and what drew you to skydiving initially? Do you remember your very first skydive?
what drew me to skydiving? I vaguely remember my very first skydive. I remember not remembering much. I did an AFF course to begin with. I didn't want to. My husband is mooning me from the back. Yeah. So yeah, what do I remember about skydiving? I remember my first skydive. I did an AFF. I didn't want to do a tandem because I wanted to feel how it is to fly without being attached to somebody. I wanted to have the sensation. Little did I know that skydiving is a sport and that I will end up having thousands of jumps and spend my whole life doing just that. I was trying to stretch out my AFF course as longest time as possible, so I continued to jump for as long as possible. I didn't think I would do more than those 7 or 8 jumps. I would have never imagined that this would be my profession. I always wanted to skydive. I've always dreamt about flying or, of course, jumping off cliffs and all this stuff that, as a kid, if you have these dreams, you might think it's kind of crazy. And then I came across a wind tunnel back in Israel, one of those open air wind tunnels. And I did that and I really loved it. And that's where I saw all these flyers for skydiving. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. People actually do that. I was a teenager then, probably 14 or 15. And that's kind of where that became the top of my bucket list. And the first chance I got, I did my FF course.
If you were going to try to express and explain to someone who doesn't skydive, what are you feeling and thinking? What's it like inside of Sharon's mind and heart when you're skydiving? When you're skydiving for yourself?
I don't know if you want to get into Sharon's mind. It's quite intense in there.
What are the emotions?
While I'm skydiving. I think that one of my favorite things about skydiving is that I'm fully present when I'm doing it. Whereas with other things, I tend to always think about the next thing or be troubled with a few things simultaneously. And when I fly for myself, I'm really consumed in the moment, which is so special. It's such an amazing feeling, especially for somebody who's used to like be bouncing around. I mean, things like the feeling of freedom sounds such a cliche, but that's what it is, especially when I'm flying for myself with my friends. That ability to move in a 3-dimensional space, truly, for a long period of time. So I can imagine And I've seen gymnasts do it, right? Doing these amazing drills where they have airtime and they're actually flying. But skydiving allows you to do that for a longer period of time. So a lot of people think about skydiving as a roller coaster and an adrenaline and this high intensity thing. But actually, when you're in free fall, once you learn to feel comfortable in that environment, it's actually a very relaxing, very an activity that really invites you to be present and engage wholeheartedly. One of my favorite things is jumping with friends, and it doesn't really matter what we do, but that communication that we have with somebody in the sky, the ability to look at somebody in the eye and share the experience of flying with them, nothing beats that. It's so special. It's just the best moments, the best love has been shared in the sky. So that's pretty special.
Yeah, so at what point in your skydiving career did you realize that you wanted to coach, or that was a thing, or how did that? I mean, because you've done a lot of coaching. That's been a big part of. It's a big part of who you are now.
Yeah,
it has been for a while. How did that come about?
Again, if you would have told me when I got into skydiving that I'm going to be traveling the world, free fly coaching and organizing, I would have laughed at your face. Like, that was so far from what seemed in the realm of possibilities for me when I started skydiving. I didn't even know skydiving was a sport. I was in a small drop zone that's quite disconnected from the rest of the world. It's not that I had extra money to travel or anything like that, so a lot of things had to align for me to get to where I ended up. Having said that, I've always been interested in teaching and coaching. That's parallel to my skydiving career. It's really what I've been doing since a very young age, whether it was coaching in these after-school programs for rappelling, whether it was teaching in the military. So that's always kind of was parallel to my career as a skydiver. And it was quite natural for it to merge together once I started to have the flying skills. First, it was doing AFFs or even teaching the ground school was the first thing that I coached within skydiving. So that was quite a few years ago now, maybe 15 years ago. As I was progressing in my own flying, it was quite natural for me to be helping out other flyers in Israel, because again, I was at that point traveling a little bit. I had some more information than what we had locally. The internet wasn't a big thing at the time as well, so really any kind of foreign knowledge that you can get from anywhere, you would try to capitalize on it. So we didn't have Crave at the time. Honestly, I was a horrible student in the beginning. Flying never came natural to me. I had to work for everything I learned flying. I had to work hard to learn it. So I think that's benefited my skydiving or my coaching, because I know what it is to struggle. I know what it is when it's not natural. I know what it is when you don't feel it and you need some actual guidance to get you to the point where you can feel the air. I was also, probably because of my culture, very argumentative, always right, always have a reason to not be able to do what I am supposed to be doing. So hopefully I'm past that, or mostly past that. It's a work in progress, but that maybe also helped me a little bit to connect with different kinds of students, to maybe help some students bridge that gap as well. And it's not just about learning how to skydive, it's learning how to learn, right? I'm not sure it's because I'm Israeli as much, but maybe because of my own personal path in skydiving, it gave me those tools.
Can you think of maybe just a fond or a good memory, coaching memory? It could be like one particular instance, or maybe someone that you helped over a period of time or something, but just a fond memory of throughout your skydiving life and coaching experiences.
I mean, there's heaps of stories. There's, I mean, so many beautiful moments with students that have become friends or have not become friends. One of the most special things that I've experienced was somebody coming up to me in one of the camps, and it wasn't in my group, so I wasn't really sure. I could see him hovering around throughout the day, and it was kind of weird. I wasn't really sure what he wants, and then he grabbed me at some point, and he's like, "I've been trying to get you all day. I just want to tell you this. Last camp, I was jumping with you. We were debriefing, and you told me that I might find it helpful to practice meditation and visualization and work on that as a skill." Well, I did that, and now it's become an everyday thing for me. It's a normal part of my life, and I was on depression medication, and I'm off them now, and it's been the biggest gift I've ever received. And I was speechless. I had no idea when I threw that remark. That person is like, "Oh, it might help you to do some meditation and work on visualization," because it is a very useful tool for skydiving. I couldn't have imagined that he would take it that far. And I was even a little bit jealous that he managed to take it that far, because it's something I keep trying to work on for myself. So, yeah, I was teary-eyed at that point. I was very grateful to have the opportunity to have that kind of connection with somebody. And it just goes to show how our interactions, kind of like bowling balls, right? How small interactions can affect somebody's life so drastically. So that's probably one of the most special moments I've had. And that was kind of a one and gone. I've seen him, and he went away to live his life, and I don't know what he does these days. And of course, there's lots of other little encounters with students that are now good friends. So,
what do you think makes a bad coach, and what makes a good coach? Maybe bad coach is not the right
yeah.
word. That sounds harsh, but what are the things that one person might do that allow them to really benefit a student, someone they're trying to help? And
So here's what I appreciate in coaching, or what the qualities that I think are important for a coach. And there's a lot of really good coaches out there, but the coaches that I really appreciate are the coaches that are able to modify their style of coaching to fit different type of learners, to fit the person that's in front of them. People that are able to recognize who is in front of them. People that are able to listen and observe well enough to try and understand as much as they can about the person that's in front of them, and then being able to adapt to their needs, whether it's their goals, their learning styles, their motivation, the reason they're doing this. People are doing this for different reasons, and if you can tap into that, then you can go way deeper than teaching somebody how to stretch their legs to go faster. So yeah, the versatility is one thing that I really appreciate with coaches. Another thing I really appreciate with coaches is the coaches that teach you how to learn. Coaches that coach you towards independence. So instead of somebody who's just teaching you how to fly your body or fly your canopy, it's somebody that's giving you the full picture, and is teaching you how to check your gear, and is teaching you how to spot. I know people that have been coached for thousands of jumps, and they're really good flyers, but it took thousands of jumps until the first time they took their head out of the plane to spot, because none of the coaches taught them to do that. They did it for them. So I really do appreciate coaching or teaching somebody towards independence. The the biggest compliment for a coach is when the student doesn't need them anymore. So those would be my two things. And then, I mean, there's so much, but I think that's what in my mind separates a good coach to an excellent coach.
You have a young daughter.
I have a young daughter.
What do you envision that she'll skydive one day? Do you think she'll ever jump out of a plane?
So I have a 3.5-year-old. I don't know what she's gonna do when she grows up. She's really into music and dancing. Whether she's gonna skydive or not, I don't know. And I've always thought, or not always, but in recent years, or when I was pregnant or thinking about having a child, I could really envision them growing up in the skydiving community. Between COVID and my illness, she did not spend as much time on the drop zone as I would have envisioned. She still talks about flying in airplanes and skydivers all the time. She pretends to jump off of things. She even tried to get in the wind tunnel the other day. She went when she was younger, but the other day she tried again. If she wants to, I would be super happy for her. If she doesn't, I would be super happy for her. I really believe that people should do what they're passionate about. Skydiving is an amazing thing, and it's such a gift when you're passionate about it, but it's not for everybody. So whatever path she'll choose, I'll be happy for her, I hope. I mean, she'll probably surprise me and do like the worst thing that I can imagine, but I'll try to be supportive, because my parents were supportive and they did not imagine I will go off and become a skydiver. So
All right. Thank you, Sharon.
yeah, thank you. That wasn't too bad.